January 1st, 2018, and terminating December 31st, 2021, is Councilmember Corey Johnson. Mr. Speaker, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you all. I love you, Mom. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Let's get this show on the road. I want to say thank you to my friends and my colleagues. I want to thank you all for your support. Words cannot express how honored and humbled I am by the confidence that you've placed in me. I'd like to recognize some of the honored guests who are here with us in the room today. Former Mayor of the City of New York, David Dinkins. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. He's been acknowledged many times, and he deserves it. Former Speaker of the New York City Council, Peter Vallone Sr. One of the most decent, honorable, good guys and human beings that I've ever been able to get to know in politics, our incredible Congressman Joe Crowley from Queens. I want to recognize him. And I want to thank Jerry Sweeney and Mike Reich and Anne-Marie Anzalone, who are up in the balcony as well. A former member of this body who now represents our great city in Congress, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, who's in the balcony. Our public advocate, Letitia James. She and I danced together in the Pride Parade. We're going to keep that going. Our great comptroller and my former Manhattan Borough President, who was very helpful to me when I was on the community board before I was elected to the council, Comptroller Scott Stringer. Assemblymember Charles Barron was here. He may have left, but I wanted to recognize him as a former member of this body, and as his great wife and our colleague said, someone who presented himself for Speaker 8 years ago. I want to recognize Councilmember Barron and his presence here today. Someone who preceded me in this seat, who broke barriers long before I came around, who ran for office as an openly gay man, who came out about his HIV status at the height of the epidemic, when protease inhibitors did not exist, when people were dying. He ran the first time and barely lost to Carol Greitzer, and then ran the second time and had an overwhelming victory. The first openly gay member of this body, my friend and a mentor and a family member to me, former state senator and former council member Tom Duane. I want to acknowledge former Assemblyman Keith Wright, the chair of the Manhattan Democratic Party, for his support. I want to recognize former council member Dr. Una Clark, who's sitting up in the balcony. One of my closest, dearest friends, I don't see him here, but I'm sure he's here, former council member Jimmy Vaca. Where is he? Former council member and former minority leader of this body, Council Member Vinny Ignizio, who's here. Former council member Dominic M. Recchia Jr., who's in the house. Former council member and the former chair of the Land Use Committee, Council Member David Greenfield, who just started a big, new, important job for the city of New York. A former council member and savant when it comes to political history, my friend Mark Weprin, who's up in the balcony. Former council member Diana Reyna, who preceded Antonio Reynoso in this body. Former council member at large, he's not that old, Council Member Ed Wallace, who's here as well. I want to acknowledge an incredible labor leader in this city, someone who was one of my biggest supporters, someone who has been thoughtful, honest, and an incredible advocate for his members, someone who I've gotten to know in an incredible way, and who I am deeply, deeply grateful for his friendship and support, the president of the Hotel and Motel Trades Council, President Peter Ward, who's here. I want to acknowledge Gerard Fitzgerald, the president of the Uniformed Firefighters Association. President George Miranda of Teamsters Joint Council 16. Amazing guy and labor leader in our city, the president of the Central Labor Council, Vinny Alvarez. And there are other labor leaders who were not able to be here today, and I look forward to thanking them in person for all they did in this process. Even if they didn't support me, they played a very important role in the process, and they play a really important role in the city of New York. So I want to thank all of you for your dedication and service to New York City. To my good friends, Robert, Idanis, Jimmy, Mark, Donovan, Jumani, who's not here today, Richie, and Inez. I'm inspired by each one of you and your dedication to your constituents, your districts, and the city of New York. I'm proud to call you friends, and I look forward to learning from you and partnering with you to do great things over the next 4 years. Some people who are very special to me are here today. I don't want to get emotional, but one person in particular, my mom, Anne, drove down from Massachusetts to be here. My family never had it easy. And my mom worked incredibly hard to provide for my sister and me. She taught me the meaning of overcoming adversity, and she taught me what unconditional love is. She taught me the importance of service to others, and she taught me that fierce women get things done. You are my best friend, you are my rock, and I wouldn't be here without you. I love you more than words can possibly describe. Thank you, Mom. To my stepfather, Rod, who drove a Pepsi truck day in and day out to provide for his family, and who died 6 months before I was elected to the city council. And to my biological father, who was adopted from Seoul, South Korea, and brought here by an American couple when he was 3 years old, and who died a few months into my first term, who I never had the opportunity to meet. I wish you could both be here, but I want you to know that I love you very much, and I have no regrets. I have so many other people that I could thank. I could spend the next 4 years naming them. But all of you know who you are, and I am eternally grateful for your friendship and for your support. We stand on the shoulders of leaders who came before us, Again, I want to thank former Speaker Peter Vallone, who's with us today, Speaker Gifford Miller, Speaker Christine Quinn, and Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito for their strong stewardship of this body. It is because of your leadership that my colleagues and I are inheriting a strong, inclusive, and independent City Council. Over the last 4 years, under the leadership of Mayor de Blasio, Speaker Mark Viverito, and the members of this council, our city has made significant progress on a number of critical issues. Free universal pre-K for every 4-year-old in New York City, historically low crime rates, and a dramatic decrease in the truly harmful and corrosive practice known as stop and frisk. Tens of thousands of new units of affordable housing, a dramatic drop in traffic fatalities, the lowest unemployment rate in decades, paid sick leave and living wage laws that are benefiting working families without killing a single job in this city. But the problems and challenges we continue to face are of historic proportions. The affordability crisis gripping our city threatens the very existence of our neighborhoods. New Yorkers who have lived in the same community their entire lives now find themselves priced out, unable to afford their rent or even groceries. Many working families are living paycheck to paycheck, one missed shift or one medical expense away from eviction. Our shelter system is overflowing with families who are working full-time jobs but can't afford homes for themselves and for their children. Mom and pop small businesses are finding themselves unable to compete with deep-pocketed chain stores. Subway riders are experiencing the consequences of years of disinvestment in our infrastructure. And shamefully, racial disparities persist in nearly every aspect of life, including life expectancy, health outcomes, criminal justice, and education. And the coming fiscal realities presented by Washington and Albany will only deepen the challenges that we face. These problems are incredibly complex and entrenched, but the future of our city depends on our ability to confront them. And confront them we will. We believe in a New York where every person has access to good-paying jobs, affordable housing, quality health care, and good public schools. We believe that small business owners with big dreams should be given a fighting chance to succeed without getting evicted from their storefronts. We believe the poorest New Yorkers should have access to public transit that they can afford. We believe that women must be properly represented in government, and that includes here in the New York City Council. We believe that a person's health outcome should not be determined by their zip code. We believe that no person should be stopped and frisked based on the color of their skin. We believe that in a New York where no one is targeted simply because of who they are. Muslim New Yorkers, immigrants, the undocumented, Jewish New Yorkers, transgendered New Yorkers. We reject hate in all of its forms and stand united against bigotry and racism during these difficult times. There has never been a more important time to ensure that our city has a strong, unified, and independent council to take on these challenges. I know that with the immense talent, wisdom, and experience of this body and of all of you, we will prevail. And we must defend these principles while renewing our focus on the hyper-local issues that our constituents ask us for help with every day. Residents of all neighborhoods are entitled to clean and safe streets, well-maintained public parks, and city agencies that are actually responsive to their needs. Running for speaker took me to nearly every neighborhood in all 5 boroughs. If I ever write a book about this speaker's race, which I don't think I ever will, I'm going to call it The End of the Line, because I rode literally every subway line to the final stop many, many times. I don't own a car. One thing that struck me as I spoke with New Yorkers around the city was how much their council members mean to them. People care deeply about their neighborhoods, and they see their local council member as their neighborhood champion, their advocate down at City Hall. We are the people's house. The voice of millions of New Yorkers wake up every single morning in Brooklyn, in Queens, in the Bronx, on Staten Island, in Manhattan. New Yorkers who head to work or school or church to build their futures, brick by brick, block by block. Their voices, your voices, need and deserve to be heard. We have one mission: to better the lives of our constituents who day and night place their trust in us to represent their interests and advocate for their needs. We must not and will not forget who sent us here. We are the bodega owner in Bay Ridge, forced to choose between keeping the lights on and buying his daughter's textbooks. We are the teachers at PS 150 in Sunnyside, Queens, who nurture the hearts and minds of their children, but lay awake at night wondering how to afford necessary supplies for the classroom while still making their own rent. We are the senior citizen in Hell's Kitchen who wonders if next year she'll be able to climb up to her 4th floor walk-up. We are the high school graduate in the Bronx who gets a scholarship to her dream college. We are the homeowners on the southernmost tip of Staten Island. Do you hear that, Borelli? Who keep watch for the next storm and wonder if we are truly ready. We carry these voices in us. Their stories motivate us to work harder, to sleep even less, and to be ever more responsive to their needs. If we become unmoored and lose our way, we need only listen to the voices of those who we represent to correct our course. At this time, 32 years ago, in this very chamber, in this very room, the City Council considered legislation that would finally outlaw discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation in housing, employment, and public accommodations. As the AIDS epidemic was decimating and ravaging the gay community, supporters and opponents of the bill engaged in a long and bitter fight in this very chamber. The City Council passed that bill. Opponents said the bill would lead to societal acceptance of the LGBT community. And guess what? They were right. Let us continue to take on the important issues that may be considered controversial today, but will be indisputable tomorrow. Let us continue to use the power of this body to expand opportunity for all and be the voice for the voiceless, the champions of the most vulnerable. Let us continue to be a source of light and love and hope in this very turbulent world. Dear colleagues, I am incredibly honored by the confidence that you have placed in me. I have the chills saying it. To Adrian, Alan, Alika, Andy, Antonio, Barry, Ben, Bill, Brad, Carlina, Carlos, Chaim, Costa, Danique, Daniel, Danny, Deborah, Diana, Donovan, Eric, Francisco, Fernando, Helen, Inez, Jimmy, Joe, Jimani, Justin, Kalman, Karen, I love you, Karen, Lori, Margaret, Mark G, Mark L, and Mark T, Matthew, Paul, Peter, Raphael L, and Raphael S, Richie and Rob, Robert, Rory, Reverend Ruben Sr., Steve, Stephen, Vanessa, and Edonis. I don't know if I could do that in a memorized way. I want you to know that in good times and in bad, through thick and thin, I will always have your back. Those who supported me, those who didn't support me, those who ran for speaker, and those who have been here in this body, and those who are new. I will have your back in this body. I want to thank you for your support. I want to thank you for your friendship. I want to get to work. And lastly, I want to end with this story, which I didn't plan on telling today. You know, my mom is my best friend, as you all know, and really the love of my life. And I talked a little bit about my growing up, and I don't want my actually dear Republican friends to be offended by this story. Because they are incredibly valuable members of this body and close friends of mine. When I came out at 16 years old, I was suicidal, despondent, and didn't want to live. I told my mother that I was gay, and she told me that she loved me unconditionally without hesitating. A few months later, the patriarch of our family, my grandfather, who had 10 children, my mom's one of 10, and had nearly 60 grandchildren, who helped raise me. My mom dropped me off at his house for me to give him the news that I was gay. And he was an 82-year-old, old Irish Catholic guy who went to Mass every single day. And I walked into his home, and when I walked in, he said, "Corey, sit down, we're gonna make you supper." So I sat down, and he looked at me and said, "What's the matter?" And I said, "Oh, Grandpa, I have something to tell you." And he said, "You're killing me, spit it out." And I said, "Well, I told Mom and Dad that I'm gay." And he says, "Jesus, Mary and Joseph, I thought you were gonna tell me you were a Republican." He says, "You can be gay, you just have to be a Democrat." Well, I look up, well, Grandpa, I've lived up to that end of the bargain. I am gay, and I am a Democrat, and each one of us in this body has a story like that. Every single one of us, no matter where we've come from, no matter what our unique life experience is, that is the great thing about our city. It's the most diverse city in the world. I came here on a wing and on a prayer and on a dream with 2 bags at the age of 19 years old, knowing 2 people, not knowing where I was gonna live. Each one of us have that experience. This body is an incredible body because of the work and influence and power that we have to shape and change and support the lives of 8.5 million New Yorkers. I look forward to doing that with all of you. Thank you very, very much.